Welcome to this installment of Moments with Mike as we continue our look at Psalm 37. Over the past two episodes, we've spoken about the cause or the reason for this psalm being written. As a companion passage to Psalm 73 was David's fretting over the apparent prosperity of the unrighteous, the wicked, and the difficulty, it seemed to him, that the righteous had in getting ahead in life. We've spoken to that rather exhaustively in these last two episodes, but today, as we continue it, I want to talk a little bit more about anxiety. 40 million Americans struggle with some form of anxiety. And you might be interested to know that over 18% of people who struggle with anxiety struggle with it because of a perceived or a prescriptive diagnosis of a neurochemistry issue in their brain. In other words, the way they are wired creates for them issues of anxiety. I think it's important for us to understand, though, that the primary reason that we are anxious is the same primary reason for many of the other maladies, and in fact, might I say, all of the issues that we face in our culture and throughout the world. It is because of the entrance of sin that we see in Genesis chapter 3. Someone once said that when Adam and Eve ate of that which they had been told not to eat, it did not lead to them tripping, but to them falling. And it pictures, as we see in the book of Romans, the fact that mind, will, and emotions were all corrupted by that incident we see recorded for us in Genesis 3. In other words, why is there anxiety? There is anxiety because there is sin. In the next psalm over from Psalm 37, also written by David, the New American Standard quotes verse 19 as, "I am anxious because of my sin." Often you and I, as people who profess and practice our faith on a consistent basis, often we find ourselves dealing with anxiety because we haven't had the practice of our faith match the profession of our faith. In other words, we have done something that is incongruent with our profession of faith. It doesn't match what we say we believe with the way in which we've acted. The primary reason we have anxiety, as in any other issue that plagues us in areas of mental health or even any other form of behavioral health, is because of the entrance of sin. But just like if I were to pick up a pebble and throw it into a pond, the secondary ripples are also something that we need to discuss. Let me suggest to you that we've already mentioned one, and that is the impact that sin has had on human biochemistry. The second would be this, though. Sometimes people are anxious as a matter of their unique personality. There are personality types that tend to struggle more with anxiety and worry and fretfulness than others. Life experiences, that which happened to us at an earlier state in our lives, often is the cause of our anxiety as well. In other words, some of those family of origin issues that we have not resolved, we've not taken to Jesus, we've not processed, sometimes with the help of a trained counselor or therapist, often plague us. And the resultant emotion that we feel is anxiety. The fourth are stressful situations. I think it was Martin Luther who said that you can't keep the birds from flying above your head in the air, but you can keep them from making a nest in your hair. The reality is that you and I live in a stressful situation. And I'm not referring today to the pandemic. Stressful situations are all around us. That traffic jam that keeps you from getting to work on time. That ATM machine that when you stop by just to get a few dollars out to do whatever it is you need cash for, and they tell you, sorry, this ATM machine has no cash at the present time. Or someone makes a cut in front of you in the lane and you have to throw on your brakes. I had that happen to me just the other day, and boy, my heart just raced, and it was just a certain surge of stress that just came upon me. In other words, there are life events, there are life situations that happen to us that cause us to be anxious. And even in the life of the Apostle Paul, who writes to us in 2 Corinthians chapter 7 that God, who comforts us in our depression, comforted him in the coming of Titus to assist him in his ministry. Even the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, when he recounts all the things that he had gone through in his ministry, all the persecution that he had suffered, the times he had been stoned, the times he'd been shipwrecked, the times that he lived in deprivation, the things that he went through as an apostle. But then he ends that passage of scripture in verse 28 when he says, and above all those things, I have the daily anxiety of caring for all the churches. Sometimes for those of us who are in the pastoral setting, that which we observe going on around us in the lives of people we love, yes, it does drive us to pray, and yes, it does help us to look for counsel for them from the scripture that will carry them through. But candidly and honestly, there are times when sometimes I feel anxiety because I'm not able to do more to lift the burden from someone. And it's then I have to remember that Jesus is the great burden bearer. And that I'm called to cast all of my cares upon him because he cares for me. As we close this 3-episode vignette from the 37th Psalm, let me end with this. In Psalm 37 and verse 23, I love this passage. It says, the steps of a man are established by the Lord, and he, that is God, delights in the way he goes. Though he fall, he should not be cast headlong, for the Lord upholds his hand. I have been young, I especially like this next one, and now I am old. Yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, or his children begging bread. He is ever, that is the righteous, he is ever lending generously, and his children become a blessing. Verse 37 says, mark the blameless. Look at the blameless. Look at the one who's mature in his faith. Uphold the righteous, for there for them will be a future and a hope. Ours is a bright future. Ours is the hope of heaven. Let's continue as we read through this psalm and other places in Scripture to drink deeply of its wisdom and share it with others. God bless you, and we'll see you soon on another edition of Moments with Mike.